Universities are expensive because the availability of student loans has made it easy for colleges to charge higher prices. They know that students will be able to secure any amount they ask for. Why is this a problem? Well, because for decades, young Americans have been told that a college degree is a ticket to a better life. However, every graph available points toward it becoming increasingly difficult. College tuition and student debt have risen considerably in the last few decades. Within the job market, the value of a college degree has become more and more on par with a high school diploma, even more so in other countries. The solutions to fixing higher education come in many flavors, but the most prominent ones are calls to cancel student debt and to make college free for all. The problem with this thinking, the thinking that we should pour more money into higher education, is that this solution is the problem itself. This is what led to the current crisis. Not everyone needs to go to college. 41% of holders who work jobs, 40% of job holders work jobs that don't require a college degree, and 31% of people over 35 work jobs that have nothing to do with their degrees. The Starbucks barista that has a psychology degree, for example, it isn't a lone anecdotal tale. It's a statistic that encompasses thousands of Americans. The fix is actually quite the opposite. Privatize state universities and cease student aid. Now, to understand why the current student loan bubble is caused by student aid, one must understand that the federal government loans are essentially a subsidy. Whenever you subsidize a good or service, you distort the natural market forces and create what's known as a moral hazard. This means that because students are insulated from the consequences of their actions and decisions, that means now they do things that they normally wouldn't do. By removing this program and subjecting students to market forces, this would help them better make prudent decisions based on a cost-benefit analysis. If you need a secure loan, you have to justify it. On the supply side, parties that give out loans to students now have a vested interest in their success. What that means is someone with a stellar academic record in high school who intends to major in a lucrative field like, for example, computer science, would likely have no trouble securing a loan from those who see a safe return on their investment. Conversely, I'd imagine someone would have a lot of difficulty getting a private 100K loan to study something that might be harder, like art history. Now, those who desire to go to fields with lower job prospects, like art history, still have that opportunity. But now they have to secure funding by paying it for themselves or by getting another party to voluntarily fund their education. If they can convince someone to invest in them, great. But in the current system, all else being the same, both applicants receive the same amount in loan money. This is a problem because not only is it unfair to them, it gives them the wrong signals, it also is unfair to the taxpayer because they don't get a return on their investment. Without a free market in education, where consensual and voluntary transactions are the norm, the consequences of one's actions are shared by everyone through the coercive power of government. So you're free to pursue an art degree in my system, but you can't ask anyone else to subsidize your passion, at least not with that good reason. The present winners right now in this current system are universities who make so much money off of bloated government aid that they've evolved into mini-states. Take a look at universities. They have their own dining facilities, grocery stores, hospital systems. They have their police force. They have massive athletics programs. They strive to be vehicles for social and political change. These excesses have become painfully normalized, but free market competition and education would return universities to their correct and proper role, education. Without government backing, poorly run private universities would go out of business unless they offered the best services for the lowest cost. Currently, universities charge high prices for the same reason that textbook publishers get away with selling expensive new editions that are nearly identical to the last. Because they can. They know that students will be able to secure government aid to pay for any price they ask. Now, through privatization, universities would be forced to cut unnecessary waste or otherwise risk losing out on the business of prospective students. Costs would go down, and colleges would become more affordable. Without the market acting as a neutral arbiter of which decisions are rewarded through monetary incentive, the only thing that decides behavior is one's own measure of what is good, which can be false. Privatization is not a silver bullet that's going to magically turn the DeFries and Phoenixes into the Harvards and Princetons. But with market forces, the decisions of universities and students alike are held accountable to reality. Education is incredibly valuable, and the state absolutely has a role in subsidizing education. But the proper role for that is K through 12, which is the mandatory public education that students receive from the time they start elementary school until high school graduation. It'd be an amazing day if all the money that goes to subsidizing higher education all went towards primary and secondary school, because they desperately need the funding to attract and pay for better teachers and facilities. But once they become adults, students, it's not the proper role of government to fund optional higher education. Federal subsidies to universities and cancellation of student debt is effectively a wealth transfer from those who did not go to college to those that did. Not only would a free market in education lower the ability of universities to artificially charge high prices, lowering the cost, it would reduce waste as well. It would make everyone who chooses to get a degree responsible for their own choices. After all, why should someone who got themselves in student debt voluntarily have their debt canceled over someone who didn't go to college? No one should be stopped from pursuing college, but no one else should have to fund someone else's venture either, and that's what happens through taxation. Having people pay for their own education will result in them making better choices, because now the individual incurs the cost and reward of their own choices. Under the current status quo, we saddle teenagers with thousands of dollars of crippling debt with unrealistic expectations to guide them. Not only is a free market more fair, but also means less young adults are left hurt and confused as to why they find themselves post-graduation jobless and in debt. This is something that I've seen with my own eyes, and it needs to be fixed, because if this continues, then more and more students will be affected.